bobbleheads online that hate Israelites, they tell you yes. They tell you yes. If you want to prove you're an Israelite, you got to do a DNA test. You sound stupid as hell. I said the word hell because there's children listening. I really wanted to say the F word, but I'm being nice. Okay, let's go to the next one. Here's the first thing that I need for all you guys to know. You brothers and sisters need to know the difference between the three main type of DNA tests. You have your Y DNA test. You have your MT DNA test. And you have your autosomal DNA test. A lot of us, see, I ain't just say y'all, a lot of us failed science class when we was in school because science was boring. I'll raise my hand and be the first one to tell you I failed science class. So now I have to circle back and go study this stuff because I failed it because it was boring. God goodness, but it was boring. But now people are hitting us with scientific stuff. So guess what I got to do? I got to go back and I got to study it. So there are three types of DNA tests that are the main ones. The Y DNA test, the MT DNA test, and the autosomal DNA test. Somebody's like, I'm lost already. I don't know that. Y is the father, your paternal DNA test. When you guys watch Maury Povich, when he says, you are not the father, that's a Y DNA test. You're tracing the lineage through the father. As Israelites, if you wanted to do a DNA test to see if you're an Israelite, you should be doing a Y DNA test. I'm not encouraging nobody to do it. I'm just letting y'all know what it is. It's through the father. An MT DNA test, MT is short for mitochondria. An MT DNA test is through your mother. And there's a lot of reasons why you would take a DNA test. If there are a history of certain illnesses or whatever in your family and you want to take a DNA test, you might want to, some people take it because they want to know about a certain history of diseases or illnesses in the family. So they know, right? You want to know if there's a history of, let's say, hypothetically, breast cancer in the women in your family. As a woman, you want to know, is there a history of breast cancer in your family going back? You do an mtDNA test where they would trace that. Right? So there are reasons why some people do it. I'm not saying that it's bad in itself. Nothing is bad in itself. So your Y-DNA test is for your father. Your mtDNA test is through your mother. And autosomal DNA test is through both. All right? Okay, everybody following along? Okay. So the first thing I did was I had a conversation with AI. I already know this stuff. So you guys know when I come to AI, I'm talking to it because I already know. I want to see what it's going to say. So I asked ChatGPT, can a DNA test prove your nationality? Because that is what everybody tells us. If you are Israelite, you should do a DNA test. Okay. Can a DNA test prove your nationality? Let's go ahead and let's build it while we fly. Let's go ahead and put a shape right here because these niggas are stupid. What's that say right there? Let's make it bigger. What does that say right there? No. No. They can't prove your nationality. Does everybody see that? You guys do know how AI works, right? AI draws from the internet. What the information that already exists on the internet, ChatGPT, Google, Gemini, Grok, whatever you use, is drawing from information that already exists on the internet, right? Websites that exist, scientific websites that exist, scientific studies, you name it. It's drawing from everything. That's where you get your answers from. So it's letting you know, hey, you can't prove your nationality by DNA test. So the people that's telling y'all to do that, they don't know what the French toast they're talking about. I just wanted to say that, right? So no, DNA test cannot tell you your nationality. That's a lie. Here's what they can tell you. DNA tests like 23andMe, Ancestry DNA analyze your genetic markers, analyze your genes, and it estimates how many genes you share with people in a particular geographic location. So you have a lot of people that a population that lives in a specific place like West Africa. like Northern Europe, like East Asia, and you have genes similar to the people in this location, your genes kind of match them. That's what it could tell you. Is everybody following along so far? Guess what? This is Isaiah 11, verses 10 through 12. And in that day, there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. And to it shall the Gentiles seek. These are Israelites. It's going to tell you that. And his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria. That's what you call so-called Eastern Asia. And from Egypt, that's Africa. And from Pathros, that's also Egypt, that's Africa. And from Cush, today you call that Ethiopia. You have Israelites in all these lands. And from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel. The outcast of Israel live in Assyria today. Egypt today, Pathros today, Cush today, Elam today, Shinar today, Hamath, and from the islands of the sea, we're still there today. Remnants of us are still there today. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, and gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. So no, a DNA test cannot tell you your nationality, but guess what? It can show you that there's a remnant of people with similar DNA to you in all these lands, but Israel is in all these lands. Does everybody see that? Am I by myself? Does everybody see that?
Now, priest, let me ask a silly question, right? Pursuant to Isaiah 11, verses 10 through 12 that you brought out, right? So if the Lord is going to recover them from all these lands, right? Would it safe to say they might look like those people of the land?
Sometimes they'll look like the people too.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to believe.
Sometimes they'll even look like, because there's, you know what I'm saying, everywhere Israel goes, you know what we do? We start playing with these other nations. We do that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We do that. But some of these people are coming are still Israelites. At the end of the day, when you trace the paternal lineage back, even though they may not look like us no more, because they done been mingling their seed, like Elder said, which is 100% right. There's still Israelites in these places, man.
Now, I say that to revert back to what you said about if you were to do a DNA test, which you eloquently made a point. You can't tell your nationality, but if you were to do it, you're better off doing it through a Y DNA test,
Right.
through the
Correct.
Y chromosome, right? Go ahead, Kate.
Right. The angels in Christ notice. They know who's who. We don't, you know what I'm saying? Some of us don't, especially the ones that are in these lands that are mingling seed. Some of them are looking like the other nations, like Elder Zob said, is true. Because some people get kind of mixed up. They see people that's a little light. That in the Israelite movement, I guess that's not Jake. They want everybody to look like daggone, you know what I'm saying, black as hell. No. That's not how it works. That's how it works. Anyway, let's move on. I have a short amount of time. So I asked ChatGPT the next question, which I already knew the answer to, but I just wanted to ask it. Do these tests take migration into consideration? For example, I may share DNA with people in a particular region, but those people may have at one time migrated to that area from somewhere else. So just because I share DNA with people in, let's say, Nigeria, doesn't mean that my ancestors were always from there. My people may have migrated there at some point, because migrations are true. They're real. People are displaced with war, different things, and you wind up migrating to someplace else. That happens. ChatGPT said, yes. Yes. I want to come down here. DNA tests are strongest at recent ancestry. Uh-oh. Let's put an arrow right there. Let's put an arrow right there, because that's important too. And this is just me having conversation with AI, which I already knew this. They're good at recent ancestry. So, meaning when you do a DNA test, if you choose to do one, and it places you having ancestry, I don't know, 40% of your people come from Nigeria. That's recent, within the last 500 years. When we claim to be Israelites, are we talking about recent ancestry or ancient ancestry? The answer is ancient. We don't care about recent ancestry because people move around all the time. So a DNA test cannot tell you who you are because people migrate all the time. I'll leave that there for now. I'm gonna really unpack this in the academy. I'm gonna leave some of these alone. Do you guys know what the Human Genome Project is? If you don't know, and you failed science class, so did I. Here it is.
Thanks for stopping by. Today we are talking about the Human Genome Project. Before we discuss the actual project, I want to define what a genome is. So a genome is the complete set of genes in an organism. In the Human Genome Project, that organism is, of course, the human. There are several scientific techniques that make it possible to start and complete the Human Genome Project. These include DNA sequencing, polymerase chain reaction, and electrophoresis. The Human Genome Project was essentially an international research project to map the entire human genome, every section of DNA in a human cell, which is a lot, 3 billion base pairs, in fact. And they've mapped all of them, which took 13 years to complete. The project determined that there are about 20,500 genes in the human genome, and it also discovered the order and location of these genes. It didn't, however, identify what each gene does, and that research is ongoing, and there's still a lot to learn. It continues to be a benefit to society as a massive information source for researchers to draw on and to continue their advances in both science and medicine.
I want you guys to look at that right there. The whole idea of the Human Genome Project is to continue advances in science, and the second one, the main one I want to focus on, medicine. We're going to get to that. All of this stuff revolves around medicine. We're going to get to that. I'm going to skip a lot of slides to get to that because I want you guys to see that.
Thanks.
I'll be way more thorough in the academy. Let's watch this video real quick.
On June 16th, 1944, a 14-year-old boy named George Stinney was executed.
So here's where I put the wrong video in here. Sheesh. I was looking for this video earlier. Y'all saw I was looking for it. I'm going to skip that for now, right? Let's come here. I want you guys to look at this. These are triplets, right? Which means they come from the same sperm, and the egg was split 3 times. Can somebody explain to me why they all have different DNA results? They all come from the same sperm and the same egg, and it's different results. Watch the video, y'all. Watch the video.
We also did another test with you ladies. You were all 99% European, of European descent. That's not a big surprise, but now we're going to get a little bit more specific. This company combines both British and Irish together. And there are slight differences because, Nicole, you're 18% British and Irish. Erica, you're 16% British and Irish. But Jacqueline, you're almost 19% British and Irish. And we found some bigger differences. For example, Nicole, you're 11% French and German. But Erica, you're 22.3% French and German.
Wow, that's so weird.
According to this.
French more.
Then
Interesting. Very shocking.
it is kind of shocking. And Jacqueline, you're 18% French and German. But there were bigger discrepancies. Yours was twice as much as hers.
I'm surprised that because we came from this.
How is it that one of them is double what the other one is? They come from the same sperm and egg, because this science is not accurate.
The discrepancies, yours was twice as much as hers.
I'm surprised that because we came from the same
Right, DNA.
egg and we have the same DNA.
And we'd like to show you one more result, okay? Again, we noticed some other differences in your Scandinavian descent. So Nicole, 11.4%, Erica, 7.4%, and Jacqueline, 7.4%, Scandinavian.
Well,
And you were both, all of you, actually were 1% Iberian and Balkan. So we found a few discrepancies. And Dr. Travis, what does that say to you when you look at the fact that they're identical triplets? What is your takeaway from these tests?
Well, I'm not a geneticist, but I love the idea of these at-home tests for fun. And hearing about
For fun. What are the DNA tests for? For fun. That's what they're for.
your all's results and the slight disparities, whatever your heritage is, obviously it's wonderful because the three of you are wonderful. But it does make, I think, everyone a little bit curious, right? Where do I come from?
It kind of makes me want to look into each sample DNA result and say, okay, what's a little different about me that maybe why I'm 24% or she's 7 and I'm 7 and you're 11. Like, because even now I'll look into it and see maybe why I'm a little different here or there, or maybe not.
You know, again, you know what we were really interested.
So I just want you guys to see that. I'm gonna go through this more thorough in the academy. Let's go to the next video. Hey, why I want you guys to watch this. This is funny. The white woman done said, so they have DNA tests for dogs. I don't know if you guys know that. They got DNA tests for dogs. The white woman sent her DNA test into the companies that do DNA tests for dogs, and they found out that she was part pit bull, a bulldog. Let's watch the video. This is crazy.
You're a good girl, Cleo.
My sweet dog, Cleo. All her life, I've had no idea what breed she is until maybe now that she reluctantly let me swab her cheek to be sent to geneticist Eleanor Carlson.
They set the swab in, they put it on some big fancy machines and read off the string of DNA.
She's a researcher at UMass Medical School and the Broad Institute and runs a lab called Darwin's Ark. Digging into pet DNA science, an industry on track to be worth $723 million by 2030.
So let me explain to y'all. The reason why they have DNA tests for dogs is because there's so much mixing of breeds. People like breeding different dogs together that sometimes you might get a dog and you don't know what breed it is because there's so much mixing of the breeds. So that's why that science exists. So let's keep watching.
I personally do have concerns about the fact that from a consumer standpoint, you don't always know what you're getting when you work with those companies. There's not a lot of rules in this space. You come here every day.
Let's throw it back to a story we showed you last year. When the WBZI team checked up on commercial pet DNA testing companies.
All right, there's one cheek.
We sent a sample from this pet owner's human cheek to a company called DNA My Dog. The results, part bulldog.
Would you see yourself as a bulldog? Some people would agree with that at times, but no.
So she sent her DNA test. She sent her DNA to a dog DNA company, and they researched it and said she part bulldog. We're gonna leave that alone right now. Because time is of the essence. I'm gonna skip a lot of these slides, and I'm gonna come here. We're gonna do this more thorough in the academy. This is a company called GlaxoSmithKline. And they struck a $300 million deal with 23andMe for genetics-driven drug research. This is July 25th of 2018. Let's go ahead and let's put an arrow there. Let's build it while we fly. So the next time I teach this, people's eyes can go right to it. This was July 25th, 2018. So GlaxoSmithKline strikes a $300 million deal with 23andMe for genetics-driven drug research. Now, somebody's saying, okay, Priest, why is that important? I'm glad you asked. I am so glad you asked that. Because, see, we're going to start here. If a lot of y'all don't know, Judah, so-called African Americans, foundational Black Americans, whatever term you use, was the most affected during the pandemic. This is an article from the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. If COVID-19 doesn't discriminate, then why are Black people dying at higher rates? So during the pandemic, I've heard this from many sources, a lot of our people were dying at the highest rates during the pandemic. This is partially why they want your DNA. They're telling you that these DNA tests will tell you who you are. No, they won't. We saw that. No, they won't. They want your DNA. They harvest your DNA because they use the information to do what? To create the vaccines which kill you. Praise the Lord. That's what they do. So you're sitting there thinking, and you're letting people bully you and saying, hey, you need to go get a DNA test to prove you're an Israelite. No, the DNA test is to harvest your genetic information that's going to be used against you later. I'll just leave that right there. So I went back and asked ChatGPT, what's up with that? So the DNA companies like 23andMe, Ancestry DNA, MyHeritage are used to collect your genetic data. You guys see that, right? Then the pharmaceutical companies are used to, guess what? Create pharmaceuticals based on the genetic data that they harvest from the DNA companies. Y'all thought it was just to tell you who you are. No. No. These are the people that collect it, and these are the people that make drugs based on the information, because these companies sell your information to these companies. And then you have companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Farm that fund both the DNA companies and the companies that make the vaccines. They fund both. They're playing both sides of the fence. That's what you have. So you're being told, no, you got to go get a DNA test, and you stupid enough. And I don't want to use that word because some brothers and sisters have done it. I don't want to call you stupid, so I take that back. My bad. But I will say some brothers and sisters do it with good intentions. I want to prove and show that I have E1B1A, and I could be an Israelite, whatever. Yes, cool. But that's not really why this exists. This exists for nefarious reasons. Going back to the beginning of the class, the man of sin being revealed. Now we know this. These devils are wicked as hell. Brothers and sisters, if you decide to get a DNA test, can y'all do me a favor? Can y'all read the terms and conditions, please? Like with Ancestry DNA, that tell you that they still own your DNA once you sell it to them, once you give it to them, they own it. And in the blue, if you stop using their services, they can continue to use your information anyway and sell it. Why are they selling it? We just saw it. Because they are using it in pharmaceuticals. Hello? And these are some of the companies that continue to sell your information even when you stop using them. 23andMe, Ancestry DNA, MyHeritage, and Family Tree DNA, just to name a few. I'm going to stop right there. There's a lot more in this PowerPoint. I'm going to stop right there. I just want you guys to see that. I want to give you guys just a base level of information for you guys to deal with when people ask you that stupid thing. Why don't you take a DNA test? For what? Why? We know exactly what they're doing with this. We know exactly why it exists. It doesn't exist for me as an Israelite to find out what my nationality is. No, it exists because they're harvesting your information to sell it. Hello?